And abortion did not prove to be the winning message Democrats thought it would be back in November, but that isn't stopping them from trying again before next year's midterms. Here's my extended conversation with popular pro-life activist Dr. Abby Johnson about our thoughts on a number of abortion-related stories in the headlines. In Georgia, a little baby boy named Chance fights for his chance at life. His mother has been declared brain dead, and a national debate is raging over the legality of keeping her on life support until her second son can be born by C-section in August. 30-year-old Adriana Smith began complaining of severe headaches back in February when she was around 8 or 9 weeks pregnant. It became severe enough that she went to the hospital for it, only to be released with medication. Smith's boyfriend then awoke to her gasping for air. Within hours of returning to the hospital, doctors said she was gone. It was discovered that Smith had developed blood clots in her brain, exactly as I developed 3 weeks postpartum. Now, I thank God every day that my trip to the ER resulted in an immediate CT scan, sparing me such a fate. It appears that the real story here is one of medical malpractice, with the pro-lifers and the abortion debate serving as the convenient scapegoat. Joining me now to discuss all this and more is Dr. Abby Johnson, the former Planned Parenthood director. She's now the founder of the Pro-Love and the And Then There Were None Ministries. Dr. Abby Johnson, thanks for being here.
Of course, always glad to be with you, Kara.
Great. So Smith's family says the baby is growing well as of right now, and that there is concern, though, over whether or not the poor baby will suffer disabilities from this ordeal. And while they say they will love the little guy either way, for weeks now, though, they have been making the case that the decision for continuing his life should have been up to them and not to the hospital's compliance with the state's heartbeat law. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so it is a really interesting case because if anytime you draft legislation, you are required to actually outline and define what you are talking about in this law. And so in Georgia, they specifically outlined what an abortion is. So what you said, Kara, about the pro-life movement and the heartbeat law kind of being the scapegoat, you're entirely correct. So in Georgia, the heartbeat law says that an abortion is the act of using, prescribing, or administering any instrument, substance, device, or other means with the purpose to terminate a pregnancy. Okay, this case is not about administering anything to this woman, Adriana. This is not about administering anything. This is about removing her from life support. So when, pro-abortion advocates, of course, were jumping all over this case, trying to say, well, this is what happens when you begin to restrict abortion. That's not the case at all with this particular situation. This is a very tragic situation. People have a lot of varying opinions about it. I have my own opinion about it, but this has nothing to do with the current heartbeat legislation or any pro-life legislation that is currently on the books in Georgia. This is something entirely different.
That it is, and like we're both talking about here, is I think medical malpractice is actually at the heart of this whole issue. It's what set this whole cascade of events into motion. If she was just treated properly when she first was complaining of severe headaches, because again, I was there, I was in her shoes, and I know a lot of women like her and like I have been just sent home with just medications, and they're told, oh, it's probably dehydration, it's probably stress, it's probably, take your pick, and then you just go home. And thankfully for me, like I said, I went to the hospital, and yes, it's a severe headache, but it does have stroke-like symptoms, because technically if hers is a cerebral venous thrombosis as mine is, then it means it is a type of stroke. It is extremely, extremely rare. So maybe it's not always on doctors' radars. I know my ER doctor told me I was the first that he had ever treated with this. He had heard about it, but he had never seen it. And I thought, that gives me a lot of comfort when your emergency room doctor saying, well, I've never treated this, but let's give it the college try here. But like I said, it's the medical malpractice of not taking someone seriously when, again, when you are pregnant, you have an increased risk for a lot of dangerous issues, and one of them is blood clots. And so to not thoroughly check when a CT scan takes 2 minutes max, I think that's medical malpractice. And now that put her in this horrific position. It put her child in this position, her firstborn child in this position, all those who love her in such a horrible position in the first place. And I think it's so cruel to say that us who want all people to live, right? The right to life for all people, that we're the problem here, when really, I think it goes back to that malpractice.
Well, and you bring up this is entirely a whole different conversation. The treatment of women during pregnancy, the treatment of women, the medical care that women receive when they go into a doctor's office. And this is all part of, people don't want to hear it, but this is all part of this contraceptive mentality. Women have been treated like really second class citizens whenever we go to the doctor complaining of something. We go to the doctor complaining of headaches. Oh, just get on the birth control pill. We go to the doctor complaining of heavy menstrual cycles, get on the birth control pill. We go complaining of severe cramping, here's the pill. Acne, here's the pill. Irregular cycle, here's the pill. Hormonal contraception has been sold to us as sort of this one size fits all solution to women, when actually it is causing far more damage. It's like putting a band-aid on a bullet hole. There is an underlying condition. Something is happening in a woman's body that is causing her to have these problems. But most doctors have not been properly trained to actually look inside of a woman's body and say, actually, let's find the problem. Let's find what's really going on. And that seems to be what happened with this poor woman. The other thing too, Kara, is that we have not heard from this woman's partner. We have not heard from the child's father at all. We have not heard whether or not this woman was a nurse. So maybe she had an advance directive that talked about this sort of situation. I can't find any case law that supports the hospital keeping a woman artificially alive in order to grow a baby. I can't find any case law, any legislation that actually would cause a hospital to say, yeah, we're going to do this starting at 9 weeks in a woman's pregnancy. So that leads me to think there may have actually been a conversation. Maybe her partner said, no, we talked about this. This is what she would have wanted. This is what I want for my child. Maybe she had an advance directive as someone who worked in the medical field. We don't have all of the information, but what we do know is that this woman was not properly treated when she presented to the emergency room. And now her family is left scrambling, feeling like, this decision has been forced on them and they haven't really had much of a choice, and they're grieving. So this is it's just a tragedy all the way around. And it really, for us, this is a good reminder that we need to have our final preparations in place. Our families need to know our final wishes, and we need to have those written down.
That it is. Dr. Abby Johnson, once again, thank you so much for stopping by.
Of course, thank you.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.